we're going to use the beginning of the semester to spend a little bit time to review some of the necessary knowledge and skills to be successful in this class. Then we are going to take a competency exam to test over these skills. So make sure you have good notes and review this until you feel comfortable with the material.
We need to look at factoring. I am hoping you're good at factoring. If not, I have some review video from the intermediate algebra class that you can use to help you to practice with factoring. So the first step for factoring is we want to be able to pull out the GCF. So what is GCF again? Anybody? Greatest common factor. Thank you. I'm going to try to see if this is a 2-term factoring, 3 terms factoring, or 4 terms factoring to use different kind of strategies. And then we will factor and then try to double check to see if you can factor this again. So the first time we just try to pull out the GCF. So one of the things you have to be careful is if it started with a negative, we want to pull out the negative. And then how many terms do I have here? First question, how many terms? 2 terms, so both of them can be divided by what number? 7 is the common factor, and both of them have x. The highest x they have in common is x to what power? Just 1. How about y? How many y do they have in common? Just 1. And then after you pull that out, I can use my hand to cover the negative, the 7 that I pull out, the x that I pull out, and one of the y that I pull out. So I should still have a y, 1y. And y times this will be the first term, right? You can double check. Y times this guy would be the first term. And then over here, just be careful because you already pull a negative. So this side now will become negative. So you change all that sign when you pull a negative, right? So, and 28 divided by your factor 7 is going to give you what? 4. You pull out the x, you pull out the y, anything else? No. Negative 4 times this, so negative times negative is positive, right? 4 times 7 is 28, and then the xy. So these 2 terms multiplied together should get you back to the second term. Okay, that's how you check it. So this is pulling out this GCF. I want you to look at number 2. Are there anything in common in number 2? Both of them have b minus 4. So this is what they have in common, right? So you pull that out. B minus 4 is my common factor. And then the first term still have what? 6a after I cover b minus 4. And the second term I pull out everything. Then what do I put it down? If I put out the whole term, do I leave it blank? Because this times this is the first term, what do I multiply here to get me the second term back? I need to hold the part with what? A 1, and this comes with negative 1, right? So negative 1 times that will give you the second term. So this is factoring. So if you're not very good with factoring, I have a list of video listed in your course now in D2L. You may want to watch it and practice it, okay? All right, so we don't go through this slowly because it's supposed to be intermediate algebra and we did it in business math 1. So you can do it outside of class. I will give you endless of resources if you want to work, okay? All right, so the 2 terms has 4 types. There is sum of 2 square, meaning addition to perfect square. Difference of 2 squares, and then sum meaning addition of 2 cubes, and difference means subtraction of 2 cubes. Do you know how to factor any of them? One of them is very important, and you will see that a lot, is the second one. So I really want you to know the second one. Anybody know how to factor a squared minus b squared? It's going to be a plus b, and then a minus b. So it's kind of like you write down this guy without a square, and then they look like twins. One is plus, one is minus. The first one is actually prime, meaning it's not factorable for real numbers. It is factorable with imaginary number. So if you try to factor this with imaginary number, it would be a plus bi times a minus bi. And I imagined you guys probably don't need that because business math is like more realistic kind of number, so I don't think they will do the imaginary number very much. Okay, the last two is slightly more complex with the cube. So the way I remember it is, I'm going to write down a plus b, just like what you have here without a cube, right? And then I call this part like a sandwich. Like the first term need to be square, the last term need to be square, and then we have one of each, AB. And the sign here is SOAP, SOAP. What I mean by that, S represents same as the question, addition. O mean what? Opposite of your question. So this is add, so the opposite would be subtract. And the last one is AP. What is AP? Always positive. So always positive for the last part. The AQ minus BQ would be very similar to that, except what? Now we have to start with, instead of A plus B, we have A minus B. And then the sandwich, right? So the first term need to be short, but it's going to be A to the second power. The last term would be B to the second power. The middle term would be AB. And the sign is going to be same as the question. Opposite would be addition. Last one is always positive. Okay, so these two are the type with just two terms, right? So this look like different of what? Different of 2 cube or 2 square? Square, okay? So we want to make sure it can fit into the 2 perfect square in here. What square make 81? 9. And we also have an x here, right? So it's 9x times 9x to get that guy. How about the second term? 7 times 7 is 49, and you also have a y, right? Y times y is y squared. Everybody okay? So this is your a squared minus b squared. Remember the difference of 2 square is the first term plus the second term, the first term minus the second term. So once you put it in that form, what do we have here? You're going to put, so this is your a squared minus b squared, a plus b, a minus b. So what do we have?
9x plus 7y.
And
9x minus 7.
okay? So that's your difference of 2 square. How about the next one? This is difference of, look like square, but is 6 some kind of square? No. What should I do first? Your first step of factoring should be what? You need to look at the top part. We say the first step of factoring, we need to put a GCF. So is there a GCF here? What is the GCF? 6. If we put a GCF 6, what do I have inside? A square. 24 divided by 6 is?
Oh, it's 4.
Okay, 4. And then? B squared. Again, like you should multiply and get back that, right? So now inside look like what? This is the difference of 2 squared. Okay, but I want to make sure they are, so I'm going to rewrite that as sum square minus sum square. What square would that be? The first one is a times a is a square. The second one would be 2 times 2 is 4, and you also have a b, right? So this is a squared minus b squared. So when you factor, don't forget you have a 6 hanging out. It's supposed to be first term plus the second term, first term minus the second term, right? So what do I put there? A plus 2b, and then also a minus 2b. So I know if you haven't done this for a long time, that could be a lot because it's packing like 2 or 3 classes of review material together. So if you are not quite there, you have to spend some time outside the class, okay? It's doable, but it's going to need practice, okay? All right, looking at the next one, again, the first step of factoring is pulling out the GCF. Do I have any GCF? Anything look the same? D to the... Okay, so if I pull out the D square, so I pull that out, the first term is C cubed minus 27. So inside is different of 2 cube, okay? So D square hang here. I want to rewrite them as some cube minus some other cube. What cube would that be? The first one is just C. The last one is, oh, that's what you mean by 3. Okay, I was kind of confused. Okay, so this is A cube minus B cube, right? So we have to follow that thing we did earlier. D square hang here, write down the first part without a cube, which means what? Write down this without a cube, just like this guy. C minus 3. First term need to be square. Last term need to be 3 raised to second power. Inside part is 1 of each, so you have 3C. The sign is going to be SOAP, right? S-O-A-P. So same as the question, minus. Second one is opposite, so you get a positive. Last one is always positive. So I'm going to write one more time because the 3 square need to be y out as, what is 3 square? 9. That's it. So this one is pretty complex. Not going to lie. If you haven't done the factoring for cube for a while, that could be something you need to review it. When you have 4 terms, anybody know 4 terms? We factor by grouping. Thank you. All right, if we are trying to group, it means group them in pair. So I need to do 2 at a time. So if we look at 2 terms at a time, 2 terms here, I can pull out what? What do they have in common for the first 2 terms? Both of them can be divided by 2. And then also they both have x up to second power. After we pull that out, 10 divided by 2 is 5. I pull out 2 out of 3, so I should still have x. And then I pull out the whole thing. What do I do now for that? If I pull out everything, I will need to hold the place with, so minus 1 like that. So negative 1 times that would be that. Okay. Be careful with the second 2 terms because it started with negative, so I have to pull out the negative for sure. And they both can be divided by 3. Thank you. So 15 divided by 3 is 5. You also have an x. Don't forget you pull out the negative, so inside will become negative. I pull out the whole 3, so that would be 1. So if you did it correctly, usually this one match, right? If they don't match, something's wrong. Okay, so now the common factor is 5x minus 1. And then after you pull that out, you still have 2x squared minus 3. Okay? So that's it. I don't think you can go any further than that. The 3 terms is the one that we really want you to make sure you can do it. I kind of write out a step for you. This school, they use the AC method. If you learn it somewhere else, they may use other method. It's okay as long as you show your steps. The AC method say you need to identify A, B, and C first. Usually this is ax squared plus bx plus c. So what is my A, B, and C? A is 2, B is 13, C is, yeah, don't forget the negative, okay? Negative, you have to pick up the negative sign. And after you find out A, B, and C, you want to multiply 2 numbers, so they will get to A times C. And then when they add together, the sum should be B. A times C is what? Negative 30, I heard. And your B is 13. We are trying to find two numbers that would multiply to 30. Let's list all of them. What will multiply to get you a 30? 1 times 30. 2 times 15. You want to give them a chance? Your turn. Okay. And 3 times 10. Okay. And 6 times 5. So I'm going to start in order. So it's like 5 times 6 and then 6 times 5, right? So when they repeat, I know I did all of them, okay? These look like 2 of them will get you 13, right? That's one of the reasons I picked this example. So only one of them will work. But 3 and 10 will be 13, right? Would that work? Like I want to add to 13. Can I pick 3 and 10 to work here? Will that multiply to negative 30? Okay, so if I pick 3 and 10, it would be like 3 times 10, right? 3 times 10 is what? Positive 30. So is it negative 30? No. So it actually does not equal to negative 30. But 3 plus 10 is 13, right? So it worked for one of them but not the other. So that one is not my choice. So yeah, so but sometimes like you just eyeball it, you may think this is the correct one. So you actually have to check it. The 2 and 15. If 2 and 15 put here, how do I get a positive 13? You will subtract what? Subtract a... Which one? Which one have negative? Minus 2 plus a 15 is 13, right? And a negative 2 times a 15 is a negative 30. So it has to work for both of them for me to pick it. So these two numbers you pick is your winning combination. And they say use those two numbers, go back to the middle term, and break them into 2. One is minus 2. One is plus 15. But this particular term comes with x, right? So it's minus 2x plus 15x. So that will give you positive 13x. And then we bring down the first term, we bring down the last term. So you're like, why do they do all this work? They are changing a 3 terms to a 4 terms because for 4 terms, you can factor by grouping, and most students seems to be okay with grouping. So this one will work for really, really big number also. So that's why they want you to know this. It always works. So if we're trying to do 2 terms at a time, the first 2 terms we can pull out what? You can pull out 2 and also x, and then inside you're going to have x minus, you pull out the whole thing, is going to be 1, right? And the last 2 terms we have what in common? Plus a 15, so inside we'll have x minus 1 again. So again, they should match, right? If they don't match, you did something wrong. The common factor is x minus 1. The other one would be, okay, you pull out x minus 1, you still have
plus 15.
2x plus 15. Okay, so this one is just an expression. It's not an equation, so there's no solving, okay? So that's all. I know it's a lot if you haven't done it for a while. So if you need additional help, like let me know, and I already post some of the additional review video online. Like we didn't go very hard on the factoring on the 1324, but this class you're going to need it. And this is just one step of a question. It's not like the whole question. So they assume you're pretty good at it by now. Okay, question before we move on. Second page. So if you're multiplying, what do I do to multiply this? Yes, FOIL, which means you have to use the first term, multiply this and that. And also the second term, also make sure multiply each term on the second parenthesis, right? So what do I get? 3x times 2x is 6. 6 what? X squared, thank you. All right, and then 3x times negative 3.
Negative 15. I mean, sorry, negative 9x.
Negative 9x. And then 5 times 2x
10x.
plus 10x. Last 2 terms to multiply together. Negative 15. Okay, are we done? No. We need to combine like term. We have minus 9 plus 10. Minus 9 plus 10 is what? Positive 1x. and then minus a 15 here. Are we okay? Number 2 is similar, but not exactly the same. So what do I do with number 2? So you cannot distribute the square in there because there's add and subtract in between. What does square mean? It means you have 2 of those, right? So you have 4m minus 5n times 4m minus 5n. Foil it for me, please. Everybody got the last question? You multiply that out just like the last one. 4m times 4m is what? 16m to the second power. 4m times negative 5n. Negative 20mn. And then also negative 20mn for that guy. The last term, be careful. Good. Negative times negative is positive 25n to the square. Anything we can combine?
The 2 middle ones cancel out, so it'd be
Do they cancel out?
Ouch.
You be careful. It's a very common mistake. So it's like you borrow $20, you borrow 20 more. So it's still negative, but 40mn in the middle. They're like terms. 16m squared plus 25n squared. Okay? Question for that one. So anything like this here, you're going to need it for this class. If you were in college algebra or business math, we talk about the exponents rule. When they have the same base multiplying, what do we do with those exponents? You add them together, thank you. If you have 0 power, it will equal to 1. Good. If you have a negative exponent and you don't want the negative exponent, how do I rewrite that? 1 over, and you put what you see here, turn that into positive. Quotient rule. So this one have the same base, but they are dividing. What do I do with that? This is same base multiplying, this is same base dividing, so we're going to have a, the exponent is going to subtract. Is it okay? All right, how about power over power? You're just going to multiply them. Yeah, if you haven't done this for a while, definitely you have to review the exponents. Okay, so how about power of a product? What do we do with this m? Distribute to them because there's no add and subtract in between. So it's going to be a raised to m and then b raised to m. Okay? And then how about if it's like this? It's a quotient. So what do I do with this m? You also do this. So it's going to be a m over bm. You can distribute the exponents when there's no adding and subtracting inside. I do want to add one more. If you have a radical like this, a with m here and n here, and I want to write that as an exponent, how do I do that? The root number is going to be what you're dividing, how many group you have to get out. So m go here, and then n go to the top. If we turn into a fraction exponents, the root number is going to be in the bottom, the denominator, okay? So this one you probably also need to know. Again, this part, if you haven't done this for a while, make sure you review that. Just some example to follow up. Same base multiplying, what do we get? You add them together, it would be 3 plus 2, so x to the 5th power. And that makes sense because this means you have 3 here and 2 more, right? All together, you should have 5. Is that okay? 3 and 2 more. Okay, question for that one? Okay. How about this one? What do I do with that? Multiply. This is x 3 times 2, so you're going to have x to the 6. And that hopefully also makes sense because when you have square, it means you have 2 of those, right? Which means you have 3 and then 3 more. So that's why you get to the 6th power. So when you get confused with those rules, maybe put some really small number in there so you can try to figure out what's going on there. Okay, I want to write this as an exponent. What exponents will I have here? This is kind of like a 1, right? If I don't see a root number, mean what kind of root? Square root. So it's 1 over 2. Okay? Yeah, my student have this silly thing and say power. So this is the power, this is the root number. So the power number go to the top and the root number go to the bottom. It make no mathematical sense, but some of them seems to like it. So same concept. The next one is going to be what kind of exponent? Your root number is what? Root number. Root number is 3, so go to the top or bottom. The root go to the bottom, right? See? That power is working. The root go to the bottom. So when you have a negative exponent, how do I change it to be positive? 1 over, and this would be x to the 8. So the same guy, just change it to positive. All right, so the next one, again, they do not like negative exponents. As you can read on the instruction, they say everything need to be positive exponents. So what's going on here? Who has a negative exponent? Just this guy, right? So everything else can stay to the top, and this guy need to go to the bottom, become positive, right? So what's on top?
Negative 3x to the 8.
Very good. And then at the bottom you have?
Y to the y squared.
It gets students really confused because they see a negative 3 and they want to put it to the bottom, but that's not an exponent, okay? The regular number and the exponent have kind of a different rule. All right, anything raised to 0 power is 1. So the whole thing raised to 0, the whole thing is 1. Are we okay? A lot of basic math here. All right, so number 8, again, somebody have a negative exponent, right? So go where? The one with negative exponents go where? Denominator, so just this part, right? On top, we're going to have negative 4. At the bottom, we're going to have okay. Once they get to the bottom, it changes. Okay? All right. The next one have a whole bunch of negative exponents. So I'm going to just circle them. The x have a negative exponent. Who else? The other x have a negative exponent. And the y guy. Okay. So everybody without a negative stay where they are. Okay? So on top we have what? Negative a. We also have what stay there? Y to the 10. And at the bottom we have 5. Okay, the one with negative exponent, they swap and become positive, okay? So now on top, we have what? X to the second power go to the top, become positive. And also, Y to the fifth go to the top, become positive. And then at the bottom, we're going to have X to the third power. Okay. Are we okay? So anybody have negative, just swap position, become positive. That's the basic thing. Anything else can be combined? Okay, so that's 2y here, right? So y to the 10 and y to the 5th together, we have y to the 10 and 5 together is 15. So you have 2 of the x here and 3 of them here. You can subtract, but I can just reduce. If I get rid of 2, both top and bottom, where do I have x now? Top or bottom? Bottom, how many? Just 1. So you get rid of 2 here, you get rid of 2, you have 1 left here. Is it okay? You can reduce it, you can also subtract it, but when you subtract, it's going to be negative number, and then you have to put it at the bottom. Are we okay? Questions for this? All right, what is slope? Anybody know, remember what is slope? What does slope measure? Can you say it in English? It describes what? Yeah, how steep is the line? Steepness of a line. And as you learn pretty quickly, this semester, it also describes the rate of change. And as a matter of fact, you guys is going to spend about half of a semester doing rate of change. It's a very important topic for business math. How do we find slope? What's the formula? Ooh, he remember the actual formula. So it's going to be y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So this describes the change of y over the change of x. Are we okay? So remember the change of y is going up and down, right? So a lot of people remember that as y over 1. And sometimes people forget which one on top because it's y over 1. Y is up and down, so the y go to the top. 1 is left and right. That's why it's going to be the x value. You subtract them. And also, y can be rewritten as f of x. So it's f of x2 minus f of x1 over x2 minus x1. So this would be considered the rate of change formula. So the only thing changing is replacing the y with f of x, because y is like the function of x, right? Are we okay? So I want you to use this formula, using those 2 points, plug into the formula, find me the slope first. So this is your x1, y1, x2, y2. So plug it in, please. Okay. All right. So we should have what on top? -7 minus a 5 over 6. Yeah, because it's minus a -4, right? So on top we have -12 over 10. If you reduce it, we should get -6 over 5. So hopefully you know how to find slope. But we have different type of slope. We can have vertical slope. Vertical is what direction? Up and down. And then horizontal is left and right. So thinking about the steepness of a line, we are going from left to right. And think about is walking or driving. Can I drive vertical up like that? No. If I cannot drive like that, the slope is undefined. Okay, think about driving or walking. But if it's flat, it's easy to drive or walk, right? Your slope starting at nothing, right? So 0. So it's flat, easy to drive, slope is 0. Vertical, I cannot drive like that, it's undefined. Okay, if it's a positive slope means from left and right pointing up or down? Up like that. So that will give you a positive number. This means the function is increasing. If you have a negative number for slope, meaning from left to right is pointing down, when you have a negative slope, your function is decreasing. Like that, okay? And next, we're going to quickly mention about equation of line, just x and y. So the really basic one, the standard form have a, b, and c equal ax plus by equal to c. So this one is not as important, but sometimes the homework may ask you to put it in this form. Anybody know the slope-intercept form for linear equation? Y equal to, good, mx plus b. Student like that one. Anybody know the point slope formula? It's y minus y1 equal to m times x minus x1. So this one actually coming from the slope formula here. They just try to get rid of the denominator. So they use the slope formula, multiply both sides with the denominator, and kind of get to this. So it's coming from the slope. All right, vertical line is not vertical slope. It has to cause which axis if it's a vertical line? Is it x-axis or y-axis? So if it's a vertical line, it go like this, right? So it's going to cause the x-axis, and every single point is going to have the same x value, right? So a vertical line is going to be x equal to some number, okay? If it's hard to like imagine, just draw it out. It would be okay. And then if it's a horizontal line, it's going to cross the y-axis. So the answer for a horizontal line should look like what? Y equal to some number. Okay? Finding equation of line is another really important topic in this class. You will do that a lot. So if it's given 2 points, how can I find equation of line? So first we need to find the slope. After you have the slope, we will plug it in to get the equation. So can you go ahead and use the slope formula and find me the slope first? Plug it in. This is x1, y1, x2, y2. Okay, let's see. So be very careful with the sign. Is that what we get? So after we found the slope, what we will do is, because we are given points, so we will use the point slope formula. The point slope formula say y minus y1 equal to m times x minus x1. And that means I need to plug in one of the points and also the slope. So you can pick any points you like. You should come up with the same answer, either point you pick. So which point do you want? The first one or the second one? Doesn't really matter. Let's just pick one. Which point do we want to pick? The first one, okay. All right, so y minus what? The y value should be -7. Your m is -1. We just found it. And the x value for that same point is 4. So just be careful. Sometimes students switch these two. It can happen. So this means y plus 7 equal to distribute. So we get -x plus 4. Good. And we should, the answer normally they want it to be slope-intercept form, meaning y equal to mx plus b form. So if I want to move to this form, all I need to do is what? Subtract 7, and that would give us that form, right? So y equal to -x, and adding 4, subtracting 7, we have -3. Are we okay? All right. Questions? Okay, so this one says slope is 0. What kind of line have a slope equal to 0? Horizontal line, thank you. So it's a horizontal line, and then it goes through this point, and they want the equations. The equation of line for horizontal line look like what? Remember, horizontal line is going to cause what? The y-axis is 4 and 5, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So like here, cross like that. What would that line be? It's going to be y equal to a number. What number is that? 5, because this is your x value, this is your y value, right? So y will have to be 5 for that. Is it okay? Horizontal line has to be y equal to a number, and according to this point, your y value would be